Hey everybody, this is Emily from Life Enrichment here again today to do another Broadway class. I know it's been a while, so I'm really excited to share this video with you all today. So the musical that I've chosen to do is a huge favorite of mine, and it is called Dear Evan Hansen. It is a relatively new one within the last couple years. It's been very successful on Broadway. Obviously, it's not running right now with the shutdown, but it has been running for several years now, and I'm sure will continue to do so once New York is up and running. So let's get started. All right, Dear Evan Hansen. It is a musical written by the two composers Benj Pasek and Justin Paul. They are pretty well known. They're starting to become even more well known in the musical theater community. You might know them from writing The Greatest Showman, the musical film starring Hugh Jackman that came out several years ago, or a couple years ago. They've also written the musical James and the Giant Peach, which is a good one. They wrote a musical called Dogfight, and they also wrote the musical adaptation of A Christmas Story, which is one of my favorite Christmas movies, and the musical itself is pretty exciting. The book, meaning the script, was written by Stephen Levinson. It opened on Broadway in December of 2016 at the Music Box Theater. Ben Platt is the person that originated the role of Evan Hansen. That is the person that I've pictured here. Ben Platt is becoming really well known. This was like a major breakout role for him. He was in the movie Pitch Perfect, starring Anna Kendrick. He's also gone on to do the show The Politician, directed by Ryan Murphy, and he's released his own album. He's become a worldwide sensation, and coming up on Netflix soon will be his big Radio City Music Hall performance that he did a couple months ago. He is incredibly talented. He is one of my favorite Broadway performers, and I'm really excited to show you all clips from him today because he is just incredibly talented. So the national tour of Dear Evan Hansen began in October of 2018. Again, it was still running up until recently when things were shut down. It opened on the West End in November of 2019 at the Noel Coward Theater. And Universal Pictures has actually has a film version in development. I'm not sure how far along they are in the process, but I do know that they have plans on releasing Dear Evan Hansen film, so that'll be really good. All right, so let's get into the plot. So Dear Evan Hansen, this main character is Evan Hansen, as you may have guessed. He is a teenage outcast who has social anxiety, and as advice from his therapist, he's told to write letters to himself, kind of as a way to boost his self-esteem and get himself out there more. So that is what he does. He writes letters to himself. His mother, wants to encourage him to make friends as well. So she suggests that he ask people to sign his cast. He has a cast on his arm throughout the show. And he has two friends, Elena, who's a really precocious student, and Jared, who is a family friend of his. And those are really the only friends that he has, but neither of them sign his cast. He ends up running into a guy named Connor. He's a member of the wealthy Murphy family. And Connor bumps into Evan. He thinks that Evan is making fun of him because Evan's acting all awkward. He doesn't really know how to approach him. So Connor kind of bullies him and pushes him to the ground. Connor's sister comes along. Her name is Zoe, and she comes and helps Evan up. Now, Evan has a really big crush on Zoe, so this is a big moment for him, and she apologizes for her brother and his behavior. So Evan kind of has an internal monologue at that point. He wonders if he's destined to be alone. He writes a letter to himself, wondering if anyone would notice if he weren't around. And, he's always been on the outside of society. He's never really gotten involved with people because he's afraid of rejection, really. He ends up running into Connor again, and Connor decides to sign Evan's cast as kind of a gesture of kindness. And he ends up finding a letter that Evan has written to himself that was found on the printer, and he thinks it is about him. Unfortunately, he thinks that the letter is making fun of him. He notices that Evan writes about Zoe, Connor's sister. So Connor thinks that this letter is somehow written from his perspective, because again, the letter is Dear Evan Hansen. So Connor really doesn't like this. Evan is, anxious about the fact that Connor's found the letter. He's worried about what he's going to do with it. And he tells Jared about the letter writing assignment. And a couple days later, Evan is brought into the principal's office, and he's told by Connor's parents that Connor has committed suicide, sadly, and he has Evan's letter in his back pocket. So they assume that this letter that Evan has written to himself was actually a suicide note, and that Connor was friends with Evan, and it was kind of like a last goodbye, talking about how he, the way that Evan has felt for a while, like an outcast, like he doesn't belong. And that's kind of what gets our plot going here, is this letter. So what I'm going to show you first is a clip from, this was from their Tony performance in 2016 or 2017. It's not the opening song, but the first big number. It's the second song in the musical, and it's called Waving Through a Window. And this is Evan's, his internal monologue in a way, talking about the pressure he feels to fit in. Oh, hold on. That wasn't supposed to happen.
One of the things that we all want in life is to connect. Our next nominee for Best Musical is a deeply personal and profoundly contemporary story about a young man who wants more than anything to belong. But his chance to make that connection is threatened when he writes a letter that was never meant to be seen, tells a lie that was never meant to be told, and suddenly gets the life he never dreamed he could have. Please welcome Tony nominees Mike Feist, Rachel Bay Jones, and my friend Ben Platt with the company of Dear Evan Hansen.
Before I even turn the key, before I make the mistake, before I lead with the worst of me, give them no reason to stare, no slipping up if you slip away. So I got nothing to share, no, I got nothing to say. Step out of the sun if you keep getting burned. Step out of the sun because you learned. On the outside, always looking in, will I ever be more than I've always been? Cause I'm tapping on the glass, I'm waving through a window. I try to speak but nobody can hear, so I wait around for an answer to appear while I'm watching people pass. I'm waving through a window. Can anybody see? Is anybody waving back at me? anybody waving? When you're falling in a forest and there's nobody around, do you ever really crash or even make a sound? When you're falling in a forest and there's nobody around, do you ever really crash or even make a sound? When you're falling in a forest and there's nobody around, do you ever really crash or even make a sound? When you're falling in a forest and there's nobody around, do you ever really crash or even make a sound? Did I even make a sound? Did I even make a sound? It's like I never made a sound. Did I ever make a sound? On the outside, always looking in, will I ever be more than I've always been? 'Cause I'm tapping on the glass, waiting through the window. I try to speak, but nobody can hear, so I wait around for an answer to appear while I watching people pass, waiting through the window. Can anybody see? Is anybody waving back at me? Is anybody waving?
All right. So that is one of my favorite songs from this musical. I listen to it a lot, I'm unashamed to say. It's just really emotional, and even though it seems like it's like that big production number that we just saw, I think the real power in this musical is the music itself and the story. It's not really about, the spectacle. The last show I did was Something Rotten, and it's very big, and like you have all these bright and colorful and cool costumes, and it's a very period piece, but this show is really just about the story, and the music is so instrumental in shaping that story. And a lot of the songs are ballads. That one is a little bit more upbeat, but overall, the music is just what's so powerful about this show, and I just love that song so much. So, all right. So moving on, after the Murphys tell Evan about after the Murphys tell Evan about Connor's suicide, he invites Evan over for dinner. So his friend Jared tells him, just kind of nod along and like try not to speak too much, just nod to answer their questions. But Evan has severe social anxiety, so he doesn't really know how to react in this situation. He gets really uncomfortable with all of their questions. So he ends up lying and saying that he and Connor are best friends and that they secretly emailed each other through private accounts. They believe this because Connor was a rebellious child, and they put restrictions on his email use. So they believe his story, and they end up arguing about it, about why he did this, and the fact that his father kind of thinks that he was ungrateful for all that they gave him. So they're arguing about it, and Evan ends up intervening, and he tells this false story about how he broke his arm, and he says that it happened while he was with Connor at this old abandoned apple orchard that the family used to visit. And Heidi, and that ends up kind of catapulting the story even more into them believing this lie. So Heidi, Evan's mom, she finds out about Connor's suicide and asks Evan about it, and he reassures her that he doesn't need comforting because he didn't know him. Obviously she doesn't know the lies that he's told Connor's family, so she just believes him. Meanwhile, he asks Jared, his friend, to help him create backdated emails between Connor and Evan so that he has some sort of proof that they were friends. And he ends up showing these emails to the Murphys, which makes Cynthia, his mom, Connor's mom, really happy. She's happy that Connor had a friend that was like looking out for him. Again, Larry is hurt. He's disappointed. He thinks that Connor wasn't grateful for all that the family provided for him. And it makes Zoe angry, who's his sister, and she refuses to mourn him. She's not at that point where she can mourn him. Connor was not a kind brother to her, so it's hard for her to, pretend that she's really sad when she's not really experiencing sadness at this point. She ends up reading the letter that they found with Connor that they think is his suicide note, and she notices, the mention of her. So she asks Evan if Connor ever talked about her, and Evan, again, he's lying. He tells her all of these things that Connor said, but really they're all the things that Evan noticed about her. They're all the things that Evan loved about her. Again, he has a big crush on her. So he says that Connor's been saying all these things, which kind of like makes her feel a lot better about her relationship with her brother. She's shocked that he, noticed all these things, but again, it wasn't really him, it was Evan. So, Evan, along with his friends Jared and Elena, they decide to start the Connor Project. They notice that people around school are starting to forget Connor, and they want to do something to honor his memory. So they create the Connor Project, which is kind of like a support system for other students, so they know that, that they're not alone and that they can talk to people if they're feeling, depressed or suicidal. And the Murphys support this plan. They like the idea, and they're happy to, contribute to the cause. Evan ends up making a speech at Connor's vigil. His parents, set up this memorial, and they ask Evan to speak, and he makes this beautiful speech in song, as musicals do, and ends up going viral. People record it, and it goes viral, which, brings a lot more attention to their cause. Going viral means when something becomes very popular on the internet. And when that happens, Zoe kisses him, which ends our Act 1. Obviously, this is a very happy moment for Evan. So that's the end of Act 1. So now I'm going to show you some clips. This first song is called For Forever. This is a performance that Ben Platt did on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. And this song is when Evan tells Connor's family about the time that he spent with Connor and about their trip to the apple orchard, which again didn't happen, but he tells this story about when he fell and broke his arm and that Connor was there. So this is a really beautiful song. Again, this is called For Forever.
And now performing For Forever from Dear Evan Hansen. Ladies and gentlemen, Ben Platt.
End of May or early June, this picture perfect afternoon we share. Drive the winding country road, grab a scoop at a la mode, and then we're there. An open field that's framed with trees, we pick a spot and shoot the breeze like buddies do. Quoting songs by our favorite bands, telling jokes no one understands except us two. We talk and take in the view. All we see is sky for forever. We let the world pass by for forever. Feels like we could go on for forever. Sway. Two friends on a perfect day. We walk a while and talk about the things we'll do when we get out of school. Bike the Appalachian Trail, or read a book, or learn to sail. Wouldn't that be cool? There's nothing that we can't discuss, like girls we wish would notice us, but never do. He looks around and says to me, there's nowhere else I'd rather be, and I say, me too. And we talk and take in the view. We just talk and take in the view. All we see is sky for perfect day. And there he goes, racing toward the tallest tree. From far across the yellow field, I hear him calling, follow me. There we go, wondering how the world might look from up so high. One foot after the other, one branch then to another. I climb higher and higher, I climb till the entire sun shines on my and I suddenly feel the branch give way. I'm on the ground, my arm goes numb. I look around, and I see him come to get me. He's come to get me. And everything's okay. All we see is sky for forever. We let the world pass by for forever. Buddy, you and I for forever. This way, this way. All we see is light, 'cause the sun burns bright. We could be alright for forever this way. Two friends, true friends, on a perfect
Okay, so that was For Forever. Honestly, that song is really emotional. I'm a little emotional right now listening to it. So the next song I'm going to play is called If I Could Tell Her. This is a song of Evan describing to Zoe Murphy all of the things that he loves about her under the guise of Connor saying them. What I'm going to show you is actually a music video that Jordan Fisher, who is a pretty well-known actor, he did a couple things for Disney, and he did the Grease live production that they did on NBC. He had actually taken over the role of Evan Hansen shortly before the shutdown, so he decided to do a music video with the girl who is currently playing Zoe of this song, and they did it, as if they were, in real life, not on a stage. So this is a pretty cute little thing here, so this is a good song.
He thought you were awesome.
He thought I was awesome? My brother?
Definitely.
How?
He said, there's nothing like your smile, sort of subtle and perfect and real. He said, you never knew how wonderful that smile could make someone feel. And he knew whenever you get bored, you scribble stars on the cuffs of your jeans. And he noticed that you still fill out the quizzes that they put in those teen magazines. But he kept it all inside his head. What he saw, he left unsaid. And though he wanted to, he couldn't talk to you. He couldn't find a way. But he would always stay. If I could tell her everything I see. If I could tell her how she's everything to me. But we're running apart. I don't know how I
you don't really care anyway.
No, you said so many things. I'm trying to remember the best ones. He thought you looked really pretty. It looked pretty cool when you put indigo streaks in your hair.
He did?
And he wondered how you learned to dance like all the rest of the world isn't there. But he kept it all inside his head. What he saw, he left unsaid. If I could tell her everything I see. If I could tell her how she's everything to me. But we're all really worlds apart. And I don't know how I would even start. If I could tell her. If I could tell her. But what do you do when there's this great divide?
It just seems so far away.
And what do you do when the distance is too wide?
I don't know anything.
And how do you say but we're a million worlds apart. I don't know how I would even start if I could tell her. If I
Alright. That's another really good song. Alright, and the next song I'm going to show you is the final number in Act 1. This song is called You Will Be Found, and this is the song that comprises the speech that Evan gives at Connor's vigil. This production you're going to see is not anybody that's been on Broadway. It's actually this group that I found on YouTube called Working with Lemons, and they're a small musical group that makes music videos of different musical theater songs. Their rendition I wanted to include here because it really gives you like the full scope of what the scene is like, what the emotions of the scene is like, how the relationships between the different characters, and you know the importance of this Connor project that they've started, and the importance of Evan's impact.
Have you ever felt like nobody was there? Have you ever felt forgotten in the middle of nowhere? Have you ever felt like you could disappear? Like you could fall and no one would hear? Well, let that lonely feeling wash away. Maybe there's a reason to believe you'll be okay. 'Cause when you don't feel strong enough to stand, you can reach out your hand. And oh, someone will come running, and I know they'll take you home. Even when the dark comes crashing through, when you need a friend to carry you, and when you're broken on the ground, you will be found. So let the sun come streaming in, 'cause you'll reach up and you'll rise again. Lift your head and look around. You will be found. You will be found.
So it's a little bit different in that music video that they did. Evan made the speech at the memorial, whereas here he did it ahead of time. But again, that's just a small group that puts music videos together. But again, that's another really emotional song, and I think really pushes forward the whole message of this musical, which is about hope. So let's move on to our Act 2. Okay, so Act 2, Evan and Elena start fundraising on Connor's website. They decide they're going to use the money to reopen the orchard that Evan claimed to have fallen from a tree from. It's an orchard that meant a lot to the Murphy family, so the Murphys are really excited about this project. Evan has been spending a lot of time with Zoe and the Murphys. He's started to neglect his mom, his friends Jared and Elena, and the Connor Project altogether. His mom and Hay have a complicated relationship. His dad left when he was little, so his mom was the only parent that he had in his life, but she was, working a lot. She wasn't really around a lot, and she never really took that big of an interest in Evan, so that's one of the reasons I think why he's always felt so alone. So he starts to become closer with Larry, who is Connor and Zoe's dad, and Larry even gives Evan a baseball glove that Connor had never used, and tells him, about how to take care of it, which Evan, really appreciates because he's never had a relationship with his own father. So, it's been really special to him to spend this time with the Murphys because he feels like he's getting this family that he never had. He's getting a lot closer to Zoe. They're starting to get like a real relationship, and she, he's, wants to bring up Connor a lot because he feels like that's the only thing that connects them. But she tells him that she just wants the relationship to be about them. She doesn't want it to just be about Connor. Connor's gone, and she cares about Evan. She likes him a lot, and she wants them to have a special relationship. So the Murphys decide to invite Evan and his mom over. Evan doesn't know that his mom has been invited over, and so she's surprised when she learns what they think Evan's relationship to Connor was. They offer to give Connor's college fund to Evan, which makes Heidi very upset. But Evan admits to Heidi, that he feels accepted by them and loved by them, and that he's felt neglected by Heidi for a long time, and he, appreciates their presence in his life. Meanwhile, his friend Elena is starting to grow suspicious of the emails that she's seen exchanged, and Jared kind of gets in an argument with Evan and threatens to expose Evan and the lie that he told, and Evan kind of, almost blackmails him back and saying, you're the one that helped me compose these emails, so I will, expose your part in this as well. But Evan starts to feel guilty about lying. He's even kind of haunted by the image of Connor, which is probably just his guilty conscience talking to him. And but Connor convinces Evan not to confess. He doesn't want him to, ruin this life that he's created for himself, a life that he's always wanted, a loving family and friends and people that care about him. So he decides not to tell them. Then Evan, he wants to become more involved in the Connor Project, so he offers to help Elena with the fundraising project that they started, and he shows, he wants to prove her wrong when she shares her suspicions with him. So he shows her the letter that was found in Connor's pocket, and she decides she's going to post it online. To her, it's the missing piece that they need to raise this money. And she's right. The letter ends up going viral again, and so people start reading it, and these are Evan's own words, but they misinterpret it as Connor and think that his parents were uncaring towards him, and that they were the cause of his suicide, which, is very upsetting for Evan to learn that they're getting these hate messages sent to them. We'll continue with that in a moment. First, I'm going to show another clip here. This clip is a song called Only Us. It's a performance that I believe they did on the Today Show with Ben Platt and Laura Dreyfus, who was the original Zoe on Broadway. And this is the song that they sing together where she's telling him, I don't want our relationship to be about Connor. I want our relationship to be about us. It's a really beautiful love song, and I hope you enjoy.
have to convince me. You don't have to be scared you're not enough. 'Cause what we've got going is good. I don't need more reminders of all that's been broken. I don't need you to fix what I'd rather forget. Clear the slate and start over. Try to quiet the noises in your head. We can't compete with all that. So what if it's us? What if it's us and only us? And what came before won't count anymore or matter. Can we try that? What if it's you? And what if it's me? And what if that's all that we needed to be? And the rest of the world falls away. What do you say?
I never thought there'd be someone like you who would want me. So I give you 10,000 reasons to not let me go. But if you really see me, if you like me for me and nothing else, well, that's all that I've wanted for longer than you could possibly know. So it can be us, and only us. And what came before won't count anymore or matter. We can try that, it's not so impossible. Nobody else but the two of us here, 'cause you're saying it's possible. We can just watch the whole world disappear till you're the only one I still know how to see. It's just you and me.
It'll be us and only us. And what came before won't count anymore.
We can try that, you and me. That's all that we needed to be. And the rest of the world falls away. And the rest of the world falls away. The world falls away. The world falls away. And it's only us.
Okay. Oh, I love that song. Okay, so Connor, Evan learns that Connor's parents have been getting hate messages based on the letter that was posted. So he comes to their house and they're arguing about these hateful comments that they're receiving. They start to argue about the cause of Connor's suicide. The mom is starting to blame the father, and the father is starting to blame her, and it's just blowing up into this big argument. So Evan intervenes again, and he tells them the truth. He explains that he really just wanted to form this genuine bond with the family. He tries to explain, that this was something that he's always wanted, was a family, and that he felt like it was something that was helping them, learning these things about their son, learning that their son had a friend, learning that their son wasn't alone, and that, he had someone to go to, but they, they're still obviously upset to learn this, and they leave in disappointment and disgust, all the family. It's a very sad moment. Heidi ends up discovering Evan's letter, and she knows that it's a letter that he wrote to himself, and she apologizes to him for not seeing his pain, for not always being around for him like he needed her to be. He admits to her that when he fell from the tree, again, he was alone, he was not with Connor, that it was actually a suicide attempt of his own, and that all the things that he wrote in his letter were real emotions he was experiencing. And, You know, she tells him that she's been feeling alone, that she's felt alone ever since his father left, but she's now come to realize that she hasn't been alone. She's had him all along, and she decides to make a promise that she will always be there for him, and that he isn't alone. So after they have that moment, it flashes forward to a year later, and we learn that Evan is working. He's working at Pottery Barn because he wants to be able to put himself through college. He ends up meeting up with Zoe at the orchard, which they were able to open. He wanted her to be able to see it, and he thanks her for not exposing his secret that he didn't have a relationship with Connor. And he apologizes, and she ends up forgiving him and says that their family really needed that ordeal. It really did bring their family closer together to go through all of that together. So Evan, he as the musical closes, he narrates one last letter to himself, just reflecting on the impact that he had in his community, and he's learned to finally accept himself and all that he has to offer to the world, which is really beautiful. So we have a couple more videos that we're going to watch here. This next video that we're going to watch is the song where Evan is confessing to his family, to the Murphy family, the truth. And the song is called Words Fail, and it's all about, how he can't really express, why he did what he did, and that he obviously feels terrible about this whole situation, but it's just, something that he felt called to do, I guess. So the person in this video, is named Andrew Barth Feldman. He's someone that took over the role of Evan Hansen shortly after Ben Platt had left the role. The video quality itself is not the best. It was done, I will say, illegally by somebody that went to go see the performance. But I think the sound is probably good enough that you can hear the song, and I just really wanted to include it because it's such a pivotal moment in this musical and such a great song. But I hope you enjoy.
We weren't friends.
No. No.
I never meant to make it such a mess. I never thought that it would go this far.
There were emails. You've shown us the emails.
So I just stand here, sorry, searching for something to say. Something to say about the orchard. He took you to the orchard.
That's where you broke your arm.
I broke my arm at Ellison Park by myself.
No, that day at the orchard, you and Connor at the orchard.
Words fail. Words fail. There's nothing I can say.
She told me that you guys would talk about me. How could you do this?
I guess I thought I could be part of this. I never had this kind of thing before. I never had that perfect girl who somehow could see the good part of me. I never had the dad who stuck it out. No corny jokes or baseball gloves. No mom who just was there 'cause mom was all that she had to be. That's not a worthy explanation. I know there's none. Nothing can make sense of all these things I've done. Words fail, words fail. There's nothing I can say except sometimes you see everything you wanted, and sometimes you see everything you wish you had. It's right there, right there. And you want to believe it's true. So you make it true. And you maybe everybody wants me to.
guess I couldn't let that go. I guess I couldn't give that up. I guess I wanted to believe, as if I had just believed that I don't have to see what's really there. No, I'd rather pretend I'm something better than these broken parts. Pretend I'm something other than this mess that I am. 'Cause then I don't have to look at it, and no one gets to look at it. No, no one can really see. 'Cause I learned to stand on the bridge before I even turned the key. Before I make a mistake, before I leave with the worst of me, I never let them see the worst of me. 'Cause what if everyone saw? What if everyone knew what they like, what they saw, or what they needed to? Will I just keep on running away from what's true? All I ever do is run. So how I stand into the sun. Step into the sun.
All right. So sorry about the quality of that, but I thought that song was really important and I really wanted to share it. The last song I'm going to play here is the song that Evan's mom, sings at the end. It's the second to last number before the finale. I'm not going to show you the finale just because the quality isn't great and it's really not that big of a number anyway. But this song is called So Big, So Small, and it's her song talking about the day that the day that Evan's father left. I'm sorry. This is Rachel Bay Jones performing this in a cabaret, actually, and she was the original woman that played Heidi on Broadway.
This is for Hansen.
It was a February day when your dad came by before going away. A U-Haul truck in the driveway. The day it was suddenly real. I told you not to come outside, but you saw that truck and you smiled so wide. A real live truck in your driveway. We let you sit behind the wheel. Goodbye, goodbye. Now it's just me and my little guy. And the house felt so big, and I felt so small. The house felt so big, and I felt so small. That night I tucked you into bed. I will never forget how you sat up and said, "Is there another truck coming to our driveway? A truck that will take mommy away."
Your mom isn't going anywhere. Your mom is staying right here. Your mom isn't going anywhere. Your mom is staying right here. No.
Alright, oh, sorry about that. So I'm going to cut that early because we're running out of time here, and I wanted to be able to do my favorite part, which is the awards and acclaims part. The song was almost finished anyway, so hope you're not too upset that I skipped to the next slide. But so I wanted to talk about the awards and acclaims. This musical received 6 Tony Awards. It won for Best Musical, Best Book, Original Score, Leading Actor, which went to Ben Platt, Featured Actress, which went to Rachel Bay Jones, who we just saw, and as well as Orchestrations. Tony nominations, awards that they didn't win, were Best Featured Actor, which was Mike Faced, who played Connor, Light Design, and Direction. It also won a couple Drama League Awards for Outstanding Production and Outstanding Distinguished Performance, which was for Ben Platt. They also received a Grammy Award for Best Musical Theater Album, which is pretty exciting, as well as a Daytime Emmy Award for Outstanding Musical Performance in a Daytime Program, which was when the cast performed You Will Be Found on the Today Show. For the West End production, they received several Laurence Olivier nominations: Best New Musical, Actor, Supporting Actress, and Original Score. They haven't done the awards shows for that yet, I'm guessing because of the shutdown, or maybe it's coming up soon, I'm not sure. But those are all the things that they've been nominated for. As for acclaims, these are a couple of different reviews. The New York Times said, the songs strike the same complex notes, with shapely, heartfelt lyrics that expose the tensions and conflicts that Connor's death and Evan's involvement cause in both families. It's the finest, most emotionally resonant score yet from this promising young songwriting team. So that's about Pasek and Paul, who we talked about earlier. Very gifted songwriters, and I feel like that review really does it justice. Derek Mong, who is a student and as well as an author and a poet, he wrote inventive set designs that transforms a small stage into a platform for the most intimate living room where a mother and son share a heart-to-heart to the physical abyss of internet cyberspace. Heartfelt lyrics with universal appeal joined by the perfect, oftentimes acoustic accompaniment that can change the mood from somber to celebratory to sinister in a single bar of music. So I really like how he describes a lot of different components from the show in that review. And Theater Mania, which is a website that reviews theater, said, Levinson, Pasek, and Paul set themselves 2 high untraditional bars in Evan Hansen, exploring a community's grief and examining a lonely protagonist who desperately wants to connect with that community. Ben Platt is outstanding as Evan. Although the themes of grief and loneliness are serious, the musical is anything but somber. It addresses challenging facts of life, but from start to finish, when Evan leaves his room and finds an authentic life outside it, Dear Evan Hansen contains far more joy than sadness. And I just love that review as well. I feel like it really captures a lot of the emotions that you experience watching this musical. So that is all I have for today. I don't want the next program to cut me off, so I just want to say thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. If you like this musical, please do some more research, listen to more songs in the soundtrack. I wasn't able to show all of them, but only my favorites, but this is just an outstanding musical with so much heart, so much power, and I feel like it shares a really important message that I think the youth of today really need. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.